Too many cooks. 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 Too many cooks.
This being the internet, I'm going to assume most people watching this are already familiar with Too Many Cooks. If not, go watch it now. I'll see you again in 11 minutes.
It takes a lot to make a stew. A pinch of salt and laughter too.
Okay, so Too Many Cooks is an Adult Swim production that aired as part of the Late Night Network's early morning infomercials block, wherein they air bizarre, surreal, occasionally disturbing comedy shorts without accreditation for the purpose of, well, freaking out anyone who happens to stumble upon it while channel surfing. This kind of anti-humor comedy, similar to that practiced by the sketch comedy of Tim Heidecker and Eric Wareheim, isn't everyone's bag to be certain, but I dig it, and Cooks is one of the best examples in recent memory. The gag is all about drawing out an audience's frustration with a joke that's gone on too long, then, depending on your point of view, either rewarding or punishing the audience for sticking it out. As it opens, the joke appears to be that it's a remarkably faithful recreation of the opening credits to seemingly every TV sitcom of the 80s and early 90s, imagined as a relentlessly formulaic series about a large family named Cook. Then the joke becomes how long the damn thing lasts, as both the theme song and the credits just seem to keep going and going and going, practically daring the audience to just turn the damn thing off already because hey, we get the joke, alright? All those damn shows were the same, haha. Then it starts to briefly branch out into other familiar genre apings like a cop show, a Saturday morning action figure cartoon, and a primetime wealth and power soap opera, and then everything goes nuts. A singularly creepy serial killer with a machete whom we'd previously seen stalking around in the background of earlier shots begins scrambling from scene to scene, brutally murdering the extended cast in realistic, unironic, decidedly non-comedic fashion. In doing so, breaking the fabric of TV reality to the extent that his malevolent presence seems to prevent the video from even registering whoever or whatever he is, eventually clipping out to a sci-fi reimagining, a mashup, a surreally horrifying text humanoid inversion, and the implied end of the world. It's twisted, bizarre, inexplicable, unexplainable, quietly horrifying, morbidly fascinating, and funny as hell. Especially when you imagine the reactions of the poor channel surfers who actually did see this thing by accident instead of on purpose once it went viral. But what's interesting to me is that while Too Many Cooks is clearly what it took for the William Street Gang's more esoteric sensibilities to break out into the open and snap the internet in twain at long last, it's not really a new approach or angle for them. In fact, in some ways, I'd say Too Many Cooks is something like a Rosetta Stone for the arc of many Adult Swim programs' approach to comedy, storytelling, and audience engagement, as close to a formula as the overnight comedy powerhouse has. Open with broad Gen X or millennial nostalgia gags, segue into increasingly warped but also increasingly layered central narrative, and then end in a blowout that plays like early David Lynch. Consider, for example, Metalocalypse, which starts out acting like a one-joke Spinal Tap but for death metal premise, with a jokey backstory about a tribunal of villains that gradually revealed itself to be taking its alarmingly complicated mythology completely seriously, even going so far as to turn the most recent plot advancement reveals into a full-blown rock opera called the Doomstar Requiem. Or Perfect Hair Forever, which began as Adult Swim's original programmers having a laugh at the expense of anime fans who were livid over the change in direction of the network's overnight programming, and then quickly spun off into its own bizarre myth-making. See also Saul of the Mole Men, which took the outsized ambitions of Sid and Marty Krofft series and blew them up to king size to take that kind of world-building to its logical, illogical conclusion. Chris Elliott's Eagleheart series spent its first 2 seasons seemingly content with just being a send-up of Walker, Texas Ranger, but then segued into a 3rd season's Paradise Rising mega storyline and its meta-on-meta reveal of what the series was, or at least had decided it was, actually all about, and one of the most bizarre choices for an extended movie reference in recent memory. Moral Oral started out again as a one-joke show, a snarky, mean-spirited takedown of American religious programming and Davy and Goliath specifically, but then it started going for actual depth into Season 2 and pitch black human darkness for Season 3, culminating in a final episode whose climactic shot destroys me, as in full-on devastates. I can barely make it through. Hell, even 12-Ounce Mouse, which worked its hardest to feel like a show with the least possible amount of effort put into it, slowly peels back to reveal a mythos and reality-jumping plot that begins to feel like the diseased bastard offspring of Liquid Television and Assassin's Creed. But of course, nothing typifies Adult Swim's peculiar evolutionary track like the Venture Brothers, which one of these days I should really get into more deeply. It started off with, hey, wasn't Johnny Quest kinda goofy and mostly about his dad, despite the title? Only to segue off into broad, pulp sci-fi comic book toy cartoon world building that spawned an internal mythology so dense and complex that at this point everything that started out as broad pop culture reference has been rounded out into full-blown characters and themes intrinsic to the series, morphing from caricatures to human beings right before our eyes. And dear lord, if Venturian ever does turn out to be who some fans think he's supposed to be, holy, for another day. Anyway, yeah, Too Many Cooks is the most awesome viral sensation in a long time, but it's also par for the course for a lot of frequently overlooked and underappreciated gems coming from the same source, so maybe give some of those a look sometime. Just don't ask me to explain what was going on in Xavier. I'm Bob, and that's the big picture.
Well, maybe too many cooks will spoil the